you seen the biggest growth from spring practice to 3 practices in with your group?
The energy. Like if you watch practice one in the spring and you watch practice one in fall camp, it's night and day. Just the energy these guys got. I think they have really adapted to Coach Chesney's philosophy of just having fun and bringing a lot of energy to practice. It's glaring. It's number one, number two, and number three.
How big of a difference does that make when that energy is unlocked? Do you think it has
On
allowed guys to be more themselves?
Oh, and on defense, it's everything. I mean, these guys, they love to come out to practice now, which is a great thing. So it's you don't have to motivate. You're just teaching. There's not a whole lot of motivating going on right now, which is a great thing. They're self-motivated.
You guys had a lot of new faces in the spring, a lot of new faces once again. What have you seen, especially out of the secondary and those guys who've come in?
It's been interesting. They really, during the summer, really took it on their own to learn the defense. So there hasn't been much drop-off come camp. I've been really impressed so far, just their understanding. I mean, we haven't slowed down. We haven't stopped with the install. It's just kept going and going and going. And these guys they've picked it up and been pretty good all the way through.
What's it like as a coach when you see your players kind of have that desire to learn it on their own and come in ready?
It's good. I think one of the interesting things is there's a lot of, in the transfer realm, it was a lot of fifth-year transfers. So there's a lot of kids that have an expectation level when they come in, they want to play. So there's an urgency, a sense of urgency for these kids to learn it. They don't want to come for their fifth or sixth year and sit on the bench. They want to come to their fifth and sixth year and play. So you feel that urgency. I mean, you're not seeking them out. They're seeking you out to learn more and learn the system. And they when they stepped on the field day one, they wanted to know exactly what they were doing because they're competing for a spot.
We had the chance to talk to Chauncey yesterday, and he said that he's really trying to grow into that vocal leader. How have you kind of seen him step up into this preseason camp?
He's been really good. And I wouldn't say he's the most vocal guy, but like when he's one of those guys, when he talks, people listen, which is what I really like. I really appreciate that. And he knows what he's talking about. That's the other thing. There's a confidence in him that, hey, when he says something, everyone listens because he's right about 99.9%. So it's good.
Donald just talked a lot about your two pillars on defense. You mentioned leverage and matchups. Maybe talk about that a little bit and your persistence on the group.
Yeah, I mean, leverage is, obviously if they get outside of you and get the sideline and go down the side, I mean, it's a big play. That's the number one way offenses, they work hand in hand. Offensives try to either out-leverage you or take advantage of matchups. Either way, if they're successful in either one of those, they're going to create a big play. That's what we don't want to happen. So a lot of times we talk about how do we leverage the offense and how do we control our matchups. And they're dialed into that. Like they are dialed into that in a big way, which is huge.
To kind of go off the matchups, how do you figure out who to put in what spots exactly at this point?
Well, I mean, really, when it comes down to matchups, you really have to know your opponent, and you have to know our offense, and honestly, it comes down to a lot of times like the players have to make quick decisions on the field. Is this a bad matchup? Is this linebacker on this tight end? Is this tight end really a tight end, or is this a tight end or receiver? It's those types of things that those guys have to make quick decisions on. And on top of that, it goes into film study, your opponent study, knowing your opponent, and then also being honest with yourself and knowing who you are. Who's the cover guy? Who's the guy that's going to tackle the running back, and who's the guy that's going to cover the slot receiver? We've got to know that.
When it's this kind of early in preseason practices, what are you wanting to see out of them, and where are you wanting them to keep pushing and keep growing?
The biggest thing is communication. Because we play in a pretty loud environment when we're at home, and hopefully it's really loud when we're on defense, we talk about visual, verbal. We want to talk to each other, but we want to visually communicate with each other as well. So we use a lot of hand signals, little quick things that, most fans probably wouldn't, catch up on, but that's the thing we're stressing the most now, because we know on game day when we're on defense and it's third down, it's going to be loud. We still have to talk. We have to make our checks. We've got to communicate. We've got to be able to adjust to the offense. And those are the things where folks, that's why the music's up. We're trying to get, sideline as loud as possible. We're trying to create that environment where these guys have to visually and verbally communicate with each other.
Talking about those matchups and everything before, what point in the preseason do you guys start focusing more on the upcoming opponent, looking a little more, or relaying it to those guys? Because I'm sure coaches have already started.
Yeah, I mean, we started in the summer, with some of the opponents, watching some of their film, just getting an idea of the personnel that we're playing, not necessarily the scheme right now, but the personnel, and just being unidentified. And it helps. Like, this is kind of how you teach these guys about matchups. Is you put on opponent film and you say, okay, here's the slot in this position. Does this look like a good matchup for us? And the kids look at the film and they say no. Okay, let's go to the next opponent. Go 7 weeks down the road. Let's look at this. Let's look at this formation. Let's look at this set. Let's look at this receiver. How's that matchup look for us? And they start to pick up what you're putting down a little bit.
When we talked to Coach Chesney on Tuesday, he was talking about how after the spring practice, going in the portal and getting some help in the secondary and the defensive line, are there specific attributes you feel like you guys have now that maybe you all didn't have in the spring?
Yeah, we wanted to get athletic in the secondary, just athletic. And one of the big things we talk about is really talking about positionless players. It's a big thing in the NFL now, and it's starting to trickle down to college now. But we just want guys that can cover and tackle, and then figure it out from there. Let's get, our goal was to go out in the last recruiting period, the last transfer portal period, and get guys that can cover and tackle. And then during the summer, let's figure out where they fit into our system. And that's kind of what we did. We went out and got 4 or 5 guys that we think are really good cover guys and aren't afraid to tackle. And, and now we're moving them around, shuffling them around, teaching them the defense, teaching them the concepts, not necessarily plays, teaching them concepts. So then as the season starts to wear on, we're never out of guys that can cover and tackle on the back end.
What kind of response do you get with recruits, whether it be transfer or high school, to that philosophy where you're like, hey, we're going to figure out where you fit when you get here?
Well, that's a big thing. I mean, as you look at the NFL now, and again, going to a couple of, NFL clinics and camps and stuff like that, it's the same philosophy. That box safety doesn't exist. Why does the box safety not exist? Because he can't cover. He can only tackle. Well, if he can only tackle, he's a linebacker. If he can cover, he can play in the secondary somewhere. That thought process of, hey, I'm a down safety or I'm a box safety, that's gone. And that's one of the things we stressed in recruiting was, hey, you're going to come here to show the NFL that you can cover and tackle, and that's what they want now in the back end. They want guys that can cover and tackle.